Welcome, I'm Chaiti Narula, and today I'm being joined by somebody who I feel is an artist first and then a fashion designer. He's perhaps the only one who has really made headway into the inner sanctum of French couture as well, and somebody who is doing his bit for Indian artisans more than any other designer in this country today. I'm privileged today to be in conversation with Rahul Mishra. Rahul, thanks so much for making it to our studio today, and congratulations on that fantastic Paris Couture Week.
Thank you so much, and it's great honor to be here and talking about being a voice of artisans today.
Absolutely. How was Paris Couture Week for you? You opened with Schiaparelli, Dior, the big wigs, and then there's Rahul Mishra right there, making India proud. It was a proud moment for everybody here in the country, honestly.
I think as a team, because I must start it like I get a lot of credit for the work which is done with the brand, and the work is carried out by thousands of hands which are working together to create these kind of pieces.
Yeah.
So I would say it was maybe a small little dream which started as my personal dream, has become a collective dream of entire team today. And we did I think we are around 20 seasons old now in Paris, so it was quite a surreal experience when you are being compared to the best in the world.
Yes.
In this field, and this season's collection somehow people liked a lot, so I think we are very happy. It also does a lot of wonders to the confidence of our team, because we always thought that coming from India, maybe we lack in something, we do not have that kind of thing, but with the power of hands, I think.
But it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I want to just tell our viewers that almost 90% of all the karigari and the embroidery and the work that goes into any of these coutures of any brands around the world, 90% of it almost comes from India, Rahul. And that is something that you are really capitalizing on, because you are the one this time around who's put the Indian artisans on the map over there. For years together, it was the French tailors who ended up taking all the credit. But because of your showcase and because of your efforts, it is that the Indian artisans today are getting recognized. At the same time, you are also promoting them, giving them a livelihood, which is fantastic.
I really feel when you think of couture, when you think of slow fashion, India is the only answer world has. The kind of artisan ability India has, the kind of craft India has. India is very diverse and very gifted. So if I say about two things, as a brand, if you showcase Indian embroideries, that's no longer a kind of USP for you, because Dior is taking embroideries from India, Chanel's a lot of embroideries are done in India, Valentino does a lot of sourcing from India. So in that way, I think collection needs to go beyond just being dependent on embroideries and an idea.
Yeah.
It has to be a lot more unique, a lot more artistic at the same time. But there's a big change which is also happening. If you've noticed, Dior, which is one of the largest brand in the world, has been acknowledging the contribution of Indian artisans on the global runway.
It has.
Which is very, very good thing. And this has just now changed in the last few years. Otherwise, what happens? 5% of work of entire garment is done by tailors or ateliers in France, and you say it's made in France.
Yeah.
I really want to say when all the things starts showcasing made in India, because 90% of the work on the particular outfit is happening in India.
Yeah.
So it should have a made in India label.
Correct.
And when you have finest clothes in the world, most expensive garments in the world will carry made in India label, it's going to be great for the country.
And Rahul, a little that goes behind every piece of couture that you're creating, because with Rahul, one piece, if I'm not mistaken, takes about a month and a half, 2 months to make. And that tree of life, we've put it behind you as well. That was one outstanding piece. How much time does it take for your team to create that one piece? What goes behind it as an artist, not as a designer, because I always maintain you're an artist first.
I think one of the reasons we do not take anything for granted, any technique which we have worked in past, we do not take it for granted, because just doing embroidery alone is not going to take you far, because every brand is doing, as I said earlier. But here it's all about like ready to fail multiple times.
Yeah.
So when I say a garment is taking 1.5 months, where 50 or 100 of us are working together, it's because
On one garment.
multiple times that garment has been opened again, has again gone on the embroidery cart, then again it came out, again it has to go back into that thing, because we are doing a lot of hits and trials
Yeah.
to reach to that final desired look. So I really say, like, you might say, like, this collection was a great success, but behind that big success we have failed hundreds of times at our studio, and we were quite nervous actually. A lot of time when you say, oh, the show is just 15 days away and you're not even done with 10 outfits,
Yeah.
you're really worried. But
Yeah.
I think as an artist, there's a joy of pushing limits.
Yeah.
There's a joy of showcasing new side of artisans, what India can offer, especially three-dimensional embroidery.
I was about to come to that. How did you come about creating three-dimensional structures like that, including those, cups and everything, which is 3D structured? What goes behind that?
Actually, a lot of time it's the inspiration. Like, I come from a very, very small village
In
called
Kanpur.
Malhausi. Malhausi it's 80 kilometers away from Kanpur. And I remember my early childhood. We have a house which is quite on the edge of the village. So almost 200 meters away from the house, there's a giant banyan tree. And I remember as a child walking with my mother also, where you put that hand-spun cotton thread
Yes.
around the tree.
Yes.
So in that way, what happens, like, you are almost tying the tree. For me, like, metaphorically, it looks like you're protecting the tree. And in return, a tree protects your family, your husband, your life, your children, and it gives longevity to everybody. I think if scientifically you see, the trees are protecting all of us.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to create a tree, that volume of the tree, then I have to go as three-dimensional as something can get.
Because you had hundreds of golden leaves embroidered into your outfit on Tree of Life as well.
So, how
It's
it
a
looks
huge
like a tree.
task. Particular creation of yours, Tree of Life, I think is going to go down in history books, Rahul. It's one of the most beautiful three-dimensional structures and creations that has come from your house, and it's fabulous. And that brings me back to the issue of reverse migration also. The kind of artists that the karigars and the artisans that you are employing to create structures like that. It is not an easy job, and for you as a designer today, bringing that kind of an employment into the rural areas, it's very, very rare in a world which is consumed completely by fast fashion, which is absolutely not sustainable in the long run.
I really feel like everything goes back to my NID days, National Design in Ahmedabad, where a lot of time my professor late MP Ranjan, he would take us to Kochrab Ashram. Although we all read about Mahatma Gandhi in school books, but you start learning about Gandhi far more closer when Ranjan used to define Gandhi as the best designer. Like, it might sound a little ironic here, but best design, because he said, like, the simple, humble fabric, he connected so many dots so beautifully of employment. When you say Gaon Swaraj, Gram Swaraj, where villages can have their own freedom, their own independence, and Swablamban and all these kind of words when they came about together. So that's where I really learned about this. And this talisman, which was, I remember in my village books, right behind the copies, notebooks, there was a beautiful quote which was written. Any step you think about taking in any direction, think of the weakest person, poorest person you ever come across, how that step can help him to gain Swaraj or control on his own life. So that is where, as a designer, I have to make clothes. So,
and it's very easy for somebody like you to get into fast fashion as well, but you've stayed away from it because that's not sustainable. And that is where I think, many designers need to take a note of the fact that Rahul Mishra today is perhaps one of the only ones who's being able to create and generate so much of rural empowerment through the employment that he creates with all the artisans that he hires.
So in Bombay, most of the embroidery was happening in slum areas like Dharavi, Jijamata.
Yeah.
So when we did a smaller research, we realized like what happens like in search of job, anybody who migrates from village, then he calls his chacha ka beta, then he calls his friends, everybody, and they all usually live around the same area, work together.
Yeah.
So that is where in 2014 when we started asking them if they want to go back to the village, slowly that process started. Now more than 200 people, they work from a small village called Bonpur in West Bengal.
Okay.
And they all have started working from there. So instead of working from a slum area, they all work in a way from their home, having, you know, home cooked food, taking care of their old parents, young children.
Not abandoning any of their family members to come to an urban metropolitan city in the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, and second thing is those conditions are not like where anybody should be living any which way. So it is really good to see when you say design or craft, such a powerful tool which can allow somebody to be at the village, be at the place. We don't need electricity, you know, uninterrupted power supply to do hand embroidery. So in that way, hand embroidery becomes such, you know, a chain of
chain reaction.
And when these embroiderers, they stay in village, when they get their earning, they spend their earning within the village. So that also allows that milkman, that sabji wala, everybody also stay in village.
So the entire periphery gets developed, and hence the whole village ends up getting empowering, and it's very heartwarming to see you do that. Now to the India Couture Week, where you're going to be showcasing what's in store, because I believe most of your collections have been taken away by everybody in the world.
So you know how it happens when you do Paris Couture Week, which is you know, in a way center of the universe for the entire thing which is happening in fashion. So around for a couple of weeks of time, everybody shoots. You know, every magazine cover is being shot with couture, every story is being published about it. So there's a lot of media attention this time which we got. So when I was leaving Paris just last week, I realized not even 5 pieces were left over there, so I could not carry back anything. And it doesn't look like I will have, you know, any pieces which are going to from the runway. We are still trying that 4 or 5 pieces we can recreate so that we can show it to everybody in India. But yes, it will be an extension of the same collection, which we were working on, you know, for a little while. But
And what's special about that creation as a designer?
So, as a designer, I really feel, you know, wherever you go, when you come back to your home country, when you come back at your place, I think that is where the, you know, origination of entire support, entire ecosystem exists. And in that way, the collection we are also trying right now to do a different, a few different silhouettes. Maybe continuing the same theme forward. But it will be different silhouettes, and it's going to be a lot more practical. Lot more, I would say, that was very artistic. This is almost like applied art. Where you make certain couture pieces which can be consumed.
So that's, you know, that's a very important point that you brought up, because when it comes to couture, you know, it sometimes and more often than not gets restricted to the runways, but the practicality of couture to bring it to, you know, somebody who would like to wear that off the runway as well, that becomes very questionable with most brands, you know, because it's this larger than life creation that you come up with. So you're making it more wearable now?
Yes. So India Couture Week for me is more wearable, more something which a bride or anybody who wants to wear it, because ultimately as a brand we also feel we are at intersection of like intersection of you know, the most affluent consumer as well as the producer or the hand embroiderer or craftsman who is the best in the world, who can produce best products in the world. So how do we connect these two dots, you know, dots together? And Paris Couture Week, I must say this, has been always about like art. It's, you know, we never ever look at commercial viability when we try to create something. Because, you know, in that way what happens, like when you try to create certain pieces which are quite mind-bending, quite challenging. In that order, you develop 5 new techniques which are going to move entire craft industry or maybe fashion industry forward.
Fashion today has become a very a force of bringing change in society, whether it is socio-economic change. We've seen that with the kind of dystopian fashion lines created by Balenciagas of the world as well. They are showcasing the reality of what is going on in our country, and it's become a very, very important force. What is your take on the creations and the creative speak to bring about that change in society? Because you are doing your own bit as far as empowerment is concerned, financial empowerment is concerned, of the rural artisans is concerned, but when it comes to mirroring society as well, what are your plans?
You know, I really feel one of the biggest questions which are there today, like our generation is any which way using all the resources of the future generations. Sustainability is one of the biggest concerns.
Yes.
So I really feel at the top of the fashion, because fashion is one of the largest polluting industry in the world.
It is.
Because somehow we found a solution to petrol and diesel. It looks like it's going to get phased out within by 2030. But fashion looks like it's going to replace it with #1 polluting industry in the world. So in that way, from top of the fashion.
Fast fashion, you mean?
Yeah, because fast fashion, so what fast fashion does always trickles down from couture itself. So we need to find ways of creating things which are far more inclusive, so that, you know, today in country like India, employment is the biggest challenge.
Correct.
And I'm sure if we can have 10% product also, any fast fashion person can have, which are handmade,
Yeah.
I'm sure it can take care of millions of people's employment.
Yeah. And
So,
their livelihoods,
and
yes.
at the same time creating similar number of clothes.
Right.
So I always say even polyester is really beautiful if it can be handmade,
Yeah.
and it can employ somebody, it can bring food on somebody's plate.
But you know, Rahul, in that case, you know, the cost also goes up. And that is where fast fashion comes in. You know, many people, for them, affordability becomes a bit of a factor right there. And I'm talking largely. I'm not talking about Rahul Mishra's collections, but I'm talking about largely in the fashion industry as well. There's always that balancing act where people want to consume at a lower price point, and that's where fast fashion comes in, but it's highly not sustainable, because we've always been speaking about sustainability in fashion and making it more sustainable, but that comes at a higher price, always.
I really feel that's where
So where's the solution?
You always have certain budget, like as a family who earns certain money, they'll have budget to spend on a car or bike or whatever it is. They will have certain budget to spend on clothing. So at least people who are buying 10 or 100, whatever number of pieces the family might be buying for entire year, it's better to focus on the brands which are creating slow things, to focus on the weavers, focus on a purchase which can help larger cause for the planet, for the people also at the same time. So people and planet, it needs to go together.
So what does fashion really mean to you then? I want to come to the less serious questions then. Now, what does fashion really mean to you? Because, you know, for many it is about keeping up with the trends, but as far as you are concerned as a creator, I don't see that. You create the trends yourself.
I really feel like that's where people need to be far more confident. Somehow entire advertising, entire machinery is working towards making you consume more. And I don't think
every magazine you'll open will have this is trendy, this is fashionable, this is not. So what does fashion mean?
That is what makes me really worried. I really feel, for me, fashion personally is something which is your personal style. Yeah. Your personality, which looks really great, and you can repeat your outfits multiple times. You know, often we get fashion victim, and the time of social media, Instagram, etc. I'm sure whosoever is watching this has Instagram, and they always want to wear a new outfit, to post a selfie out there. Other people will say, oh, why are you wearing? I think it's really cool, it's really mindful to wear, you know, same outfit again and again, and show the world that you are really careful about, you know, purchasing extra, because ultimately most of the things are going to end up into landfills. Yeah. And I'm sharing here also, my daughter, who is 6-year-old, her 90% clothing comes from my sister's daughters who are elder to her. So Rahul, now what next in your career? What is the next big thing we're expecting from Rahul Mishra? So as you are aware, like with the Reliance, you know, retail, we have done Reliance Brand Limited. We have done a JV. So for which we have been, you know, working quite a lot. So I have done 14 seasons ready-to-wear in Paris. So my ready-to-wear got disrupted because of my focus on couture as well as pandemic in 2020. And we had Rahul Mishra ready-to-wear presence across the globe.
Yeah.
So ready-to-wear will carry the similar philosophy of slow fashion,
Yeah.
inclusivity,
Yeah.
in terms of involving artisans to work with us. And probably we will also be able to show what I'm talking about right now. I think as a brand we will to walk the path, how ready-to-wear or fast fashion, whatever you call it, should be created in a slow manner.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
So from next year maybe something like that is going to be there. And we are looking at...
And the capital infusion really helps you.
Yes, 100%, because ultimately, it also creates
that room, right?
And one more thing is that, like, whatever ideas were there, it creates the room. It also creates, we can build small little university of the brand in London, in Paris, in Milan, in New York, these kind of places, so that we are able to take brand, the ready-to-wear brand, in all its practicality, to the consumers with best of made in India as a choice.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, the biggest thing that Rahul has said today is going forward, what he's planning to do is to make fast fashion slow, a need of the hour as far as the entire Earth is concerned with the climate change and everything that we're witnessing today. It was such a pleasure talking to you, Rahul, and all the best for the upcoming India Couture Week 2022.
Thanks a lot.